Is it just that one that's not going on? Unmuted and we're live again. Fantastic. We had a mute error for a moment then. Hey, welcome to A Cup of Tea.
A cup of tea with Keith Fields.
And Lady Sarah.
And here we are with my cup of tea. I'm fruity today. A little bit of raspberry zing.
Raspberry zing.
Yes. And you're drinking?
I'm drinking coffee because, as we all know, I hate tea.
Dreadful, dreadful.
That's the way it goes.
I've got nothing to say, really.
So this is A Cup of Tea. There's a chat thing just to remind you about. So please say hello if you're watching in the chat so we know you're there. We can already say hello to a few people.
Look, there's Olivia Charlotte Ann. Look at that. Hello.
Tracy Bowden's out there. Juliana Flores, thanks very much for dropping in. As you know by now, we go live at 2 from Troy every Tuesday and Thursday. So
with a cup of tea for jolly chats.
Yes. And jolly guests. And we like to produce some good guests. And we've got a couple or 3 guests with some great stories to tell, I hope, and some great magic coming at the end. So look forward to that. But first guest time is?
First guest time. Let me tell you about this lady. I have known her for quite a while. In fact, since we moved to the US, she is a mum at home here locally in Troy, which is wonderful. But apart from that as well, she also, we're going to show a little picture of her. Yeah, look how cute she looks there. She is a fashion icon, even at a young age. And then later in life, well, you'll see her in JC Park doing this sort of thing, looking pretty amazing, I'd say. So our lady is, I'm going to bring you up a banner as well, sorry. Oh. Keith, have you got the big intro?
Yeah, I've got the big intro going because we're going to do this with music and applause and everything. Please welcome our first guest, who is with Explore Yoga Troy, but that's not actually the thing we're really going to be talking about today, but a bit about that. It is Gwen Dickerson.
Yay!
Hey, hi Sarah, hi Keith.
Just have the big dancing music.
Dancing music, Keith's off.
Sorry, I put music and applause in just for fun. Hey Gwen, how you doing?
I'm just great. How are you guys today?
Excellent, thank you. Excellent.
Isn't it a beautiful day here in Troy?
It is. It is. We should be broadcasting outside.
Well, that would be nice. I know we did this broadcast on Thursday last week, and it was actually snowing. So we've gone from snow to, I think it's about 65 degrees out there today, isn't it?
It's fantastic. And in fact, Gwen, I am aware that often if we go past the historical building, museum in Troy, we will be seeing you doing poses such as we saw earlier. Phenomenal.
Maybe not headstands, although if you come, I'll be happy to teach that too. But yes, we have a summer program. It's a coordination with Explore Yoga here in Troy and the Troy Historic Village and Museum. And so I usually teach out back under the beautiful trees on Tuesday evenings all summer long. We just need to get started. So
yeah, I have one question of great significance about this, though, is are there goats involved?
Goats?
There are not.
Goats.
Nope. California does yoga with goats.
No.
I would pay good money to go and watch goat yoga. I don't know about taking part, but I'd pay to watch, I think so.
Wrong yoga teacher. Sorry.
Yeah. Goats. This is Troy. This is Michigan. Yes, we don't have goat yoga here.
Anyway, let's get back to the reason that we really wanted to talk to Gwen, because Gwen, one of the other things Gwen does is she makes wedding dresses and prom dresses and all that sort of thing. And we've seen that through our history with proms with our kids and all that. But it's the seamstress side of things that led us to this story. Now, perhaps you tell us just the very beginning bit of the story about how it got started.
Sure. So I have kind of 2 full-time jobs, which are really my passions. I teach yoga, as you mentioned, out and about in the community, kind of on my own or contract or corporate work, but I also teach over at Explore Yoga. So find me on the schedule. Come join me in the studio sometime, just right around the corner, neighborhood studio. And then I also, for about 30 years or so, I've done custom design sewing out of my house. So I love to do prom dresses and wedding dresses and all kinds of stuff. But it's just two things that I enjoy doing. And I really work at both of them full time until March 15th, right? When everything fell apart. And so I stay very busy and I love to do that. And so I thought, well, now what? Now what? Besides clean my house and watch the snow.
You're going to do that so many times.
What I can do. And so we started right away hearing about the lack of protective equipment for hospital workers, right? I thought, well, as a yoga teacher, I teach a lot of karma yoga, which is free yoga, donation-based, volunteer. I don't make money. I do what I can to help out good causes.
Yeah.
The same can be said about sewing, right?
Yeah.
And in the past, I've done a lot of big projects, donating stuff that I have sewn and created. And I am all about asking people to help. And so I contacted a neighbor, a friend of ours, Jessica Lau Hamilton, who is the chief PA at Royal Oak Beaumont ER.
Right.
So take yourself back to, a few weeks ago when they were just scrambling for everything. And I thought, well, all right, mask. Jess, do you need mask? And she says, we're not allowed to use home sewn masks. And then she contacted me and she said, but we are allowed to use home sewn scrub caps and we don't have any. Can you make me some? So of course I did. And it started with dragging out my supplies out of my basement. I put together a pattern based on her favorite hat and I put a few caps together and gave them to her.
Now, do you happen to have one to hand there, which you can show us, or are you that organized?
I sure do.
Oh,
I
fantastic.
Sure do.
So
now,
show
I will
exactly
say,
what you're
I
talking
did not
about.
make these because the ones that I made are already being worn in the hospital, but this is what they are. Beautiful scrub caps. They tie in the back, and you'll notice there's buttons on the side where they put the elastic from their mask on.
Right.
So I made a few for Jess, and then I thought, well, we can do better than this. Go big or go home, right? And so
this is what I really love about this story is when you get to this point, is you
day 3, I said,
crazy.
I'm going to put this out on Facebook. And I have a thing about Facebook. I will buy anybody on my Facebook page lunch, but I'll also ask them for help. Everybody on my page are friends, good friends. And so I threw it out there and I said, hey, I've been asked to make these scrub caps. Anybody want to help? And I had a few very good friends say, yes, I don't know how to sew, but I can try. Another one says, I sew really well, never knew it about her. So we used up all the fabric that I had, all the stuff they had. And it took a few days before we got a stack of hats here. And we knew they were going to the ER through Jessica, right over to Beaumont Hospital, handing them off on my porch. And but we used up everything we had. So about day 3 or 4, I thought, all right, next door app. 10,000 people or more in Troy, and I threw it out there and just said, hey, all right, who wants to help out? Who's got stuff? I'm putting bins on my front porch. If you have fabric, threads, buttons, whatever, let's donate it. And then who can sew? I really need people to sew. And this thing snowballed. It was crazy. So we handed off 60 caps to Jessica. The next thing, we were doing 90 caps on Easter Sunday.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, so 90 was huge. My goal in the beginning was to create 100 caps. And I could do that on my own, but it was going to take a while. But I didn't have the supplies. And so anyway, 90 caps went off on Easter Sunday for an ICU unit. Then it was 40 somewhere else. Then somebody else started saying, well, let's go over to Troy Beaumont and donate over there. Anyway, all said and done, we handed off, and this was so cool. Your kids know most of the people that physically brought the caps to the people at the hospital because that's where they work.
That's great.
PAs on the floor, they're nurses. So we start handing out bags of 100 caps here, 100 there, 60 more here. People would stop by my porch and pick up a couple. Anyway, we have donated to Troy Beaumont, Royal Oak Beaumont, Detroit Medical Center, Detroit Receiving Hospital, St. Mary's Hospital, and to a rehabilitation center here. Guess how many we've donated?
I was just wondering if you had the figure. I'm really excited.
I do. And they're still coming in. This is a true story. I thought my part was done. 67 caps were dropped off on my door on Sunday. I have 2 doctors that live next door to me, and he came over and he said, I have scrub caps that were dropped on my porch. Do you know anything about them? So they keep coming.
Yeah.
As of today, we have created 1,305 scrub caps.
That's
It's been amazing.
great.
So
great
people
point.
have offered to sew, and obviously we don't get together. It's not a sewing bee. It's not a quilting bee.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And all of the supplies have been donated. We couldn't get stuff online for the most part. And we have connected with my yoga students from over at Explore, have tapped in and come over and picked up stuff and made them. They have been sent off to all kinds of different
And we've got one of
and we've got a couple of masks you've been making as well, because we've got these. These are made by Gwen's team.
They're fantastic.
Gwen, really, your story is an inspiration to all of us, because it shows really that the biggest issue with doing anything is starting. And I think if you just start, then see what happens, and just that you have the bravery and the courage to do it, you've achieved marvelous things.
Marvelous, absolutely.
Well, the one thing I keep hearing through all of this, and I'll leave you with this, is that so many people said it's just been an honor to be a part of this. And they wanted to pitch in and help somehow, didn't know how. And this kind of opened a door where a lot of people could pitch in and help. And I think we all left the whole process with the motto I live by, and that's the giver gets the gift. Remember that.
I remember. In fact, Gwen, there's a few people. There's Leslie Lawson who's saying well done, and there's Andy coming up as well. And
hey, Andy Satterfield.
Probably some of these people you know.
Great, you've done a great job.
We're going to pop you into the green room because we have got 2 guests lined up. But please don't go anywhere, Gwen. We want you to come back and join us with some magic with George Tait at the end of the show.
We certainly do. We certainly do. Now, this chap that you're going to see now. Well, I mean, look at him. How cute is that?
Yes, and I wonder what he does for a living. There's a little clue in the picture there.
Do you think? No. Because wait for the next picture.
Okay.
Because same thing.
He started young and kept going, this lad. But you can tell from what he was wearing that he was going to one day be a wedding band player, can't you?
He's going to be a professional kid. Look at that haircut.
Absolutely.
Do you want to play the intro music so we can hear this?
And we will welcome the man who is amongst other things, the director of the Detroit School of Rock and Pop. And the thing I love about this guy is he's a guy that does stuff, much like Gwen. Some people don't do stuff, and he does stuff. We're going to see some of the stuff he does. And talk
Ladies
about
and
that.
gentlemen,
Jason Gittinger.
Yay!
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
It's like a professional TV show almost, isn't it?
Almost. Apart from we're telling you what we're going to do, and that's not good. Jason.
So Jason, we first met you, I think, 10 years ago when we first moved here, because the contact with my brother, and I do remember we did one of my favorite things together. I don't even remember. We actually went out for an Indian meal.
Oh yeah.
We went out for a curry. And, it's a fantastic British tradition to go out for a curry, so it was nice to do it over here. And that was the early days.
That was the early days.
Detroit
You were just
school.
starting the Detroit School of Rock and Pop. Tell us, how did that come about?
Oh, the school? Oh man. As far back as 2001, I wanted to create a place called the Detroit Jazz Collective, and eventually I was like, maybe I should modernize this slightly. But the whole concept is helping people with their music, but you can only help those who are in the process of helping themselves. So creating a place that people who are committed to making progress with their music have a safe place to do it, and then putting it into action. So that was the whole vision. The name Detroit School of Rock and Pop Music can be that for as long as it needs to be, but eventually we could get rid of rock and pop music and it just be the Detroit School, where we do that process, help people make music.
And I think one other thing I loved about your whole approach to teaching music is not just learning music, but you get guys together in groups and you put on concerts and
we've seen you at
houses.
Hearts, Beats and Eats.
Yeah, tell us about that side of what you've been doing.
Yeah, so what's a little bit different about what we do versus other music lessons per se is we always try to have some kind of goal, things that people are shooting for. So whether it be a live concert, like a recital, like you would see normally at a music school, or festivals and events. We have a full video studio and recording studio, so we make lots of different productions with the students. And then even in this current time, we've actually had so far 2 virtual recitals, and we have a 3rd one scheduled in 2 weeks. So
amazing!
That's great.
That's fantastic. A virtual recital.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
But as Keith said at the beginning, you do stuff, and for many people like Keith and I, we wander through the streets of somewhere like Royal Oak, and suddenly we see pianos on the street corners, and we think, who the heck puts those out?
Yeah, and it was just a great moment, because I play piano a little bit, very badly, I might point out. A little bit. But when there's a piano there, I can't resist sitting down and having. So it just touched me that there was not one but pianos all over the place, and you were the brains behind that. So tell us about that little amazing concept of yours.
Yeah, I can't say that I came up with the idea. I mean, obviously it's all over the world, but we do have a music-centered business. My father was a piano technician, so I spent every day before school as a kid, like, working on pianos. I've been to piano technician conventions in my lifetime, so I know a little bit about how they actually work. So that, coupled with, I chair the Commission for the Arts for the city of Royal Oak. So I always believe that if you're going to do something, you should put your money and your time where your mouth is and be an example for other people, because just talking about it or having the idea at a meeting doesn't really accomplish much. So, so the first year we did 1 piano, and we put it in front of our business in order to just prove to the city commission and to people who aren't interested in doing quirky, interesting things that it's not going to get destroyed, and people aren't going to throw it out in the middle of traffic or any of those kinds of things. And then through that pilot project, the next year we had a number of pianos, and now a few years later we have usually about 7 or 8, sometimes even 9 pianos. In Royal Oak, we've had pianos in Ferndale, we've had pianos in Birmingham. So it's kind of fun. And much like our previous guest, just starting something and then seeing a whole bunch of people, be a part of that energy is so fun. So that was
people.
Go ahead.
People just love it, don't they? They feel that they're getting involved with their community as well, and so from your point of view, you're giving something back. But people enjoy just sitting at a piano and playing. But starting a project, no fears on starting this one? You weren't frightened that it would go wrong? I never have any fears about starting anything, really. I mean, things that we've started with that Commission for the Arts since it began, and we have a whole public art project that puts sculptures all over the city and paintings. There's a summer concert series for the city that we help throw. We have an entire trailer full of equipment just for that. And then, by the way, there's no upside. It's not like it makes a ton of money. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's only for the good of doing good. But the funny part is when you do that, when you start doing good for no good reason, but just because of the good, amazing support and things come out of that. So
that's the sort of thing that I know about you. You have no, you're the first person I know to throw your hat into the ring and go, let's do it, let's make it happen. And that attitude, I think, is something which is, I find it kind of almost exciting. To do it for the sake of doing it, to do it because it's a good thing.
You're not trying to get something back.
There genuinely is no, that isn't part of your being. For more of us, I think, would be involved in that if we knew how to do things. Can you think of any tips or advice on maybe ways we could get involved socially and locally?
Yeah, well, I mean, my first word of advice would be one. Community involvement is not a Facebook post or a Facebook comment. It's not tearing down the guy who was there before you. A lot of times people are in positions of leadership just because everybody else either died or moved out of the way. So you can't just barge in and be like, you guys do our whole city wrong, you should do it differently. No, you got to be like, hey, I have an idea. Let me show you how this idea could work. Let me get more than just myself involved, because if it's just yourself, it's pretty selfish endeavor, right? Even just on the idea of sewing being such a big thing, you'd never guessed that our previous guest's sewing effort would be such a huge thing. In Royal Oak, we have a project called Sharing the Warmth, and it's literally knitters that knit scarves and hats and stuff like that. And it just started with some people that were interested in knitting, and they're like, what can we do? Well, let's knit some scarves. hundreds of people knitting scarves and items that they leave out over the wintertime for either homeless people or people that are in need of those items. So if it was just one knitter that was like, I want to knit this big project, can you give me $100,000 to knit my project? Everybody would be like, no, there's no money for that. But if it's hundreds of people that are knitting thousands of items for tons of people, it just snowballs into such a great thing, you know?
So you're right, Jason. You want to work together. You want to work as a team, and I think
work as a community.
And work as a community. I mean, that's what it's about. It's working together, and it's very hard when we're social isolating. But technology is such now that we can reach out, we can communicate, which is a good thing, and we can do these things from our home. And so that's the way things are going to go.
So, Jason, stick around. Thanks very much for joining us. Actually, this is quite a fortuitous link, almost having you and our next guest, and we're going to bring Gwen back in as well.
Yeah, look, here's Gwen. Here's Gwen.
But your piano thing is just just one of those things. Our next guest. Very good friend of ours, George Tait, has a podcast out at the moment.
Really?
Yes, it's called How to Kill a Piano. Now, I've had lots of friends that have done
Sorry about that, Jason.
It's all good. Have done these sort of podcasts and things. They said, you must listen to this. And I sort of usually say, yes, I'll get around to it at some point, because usually you listen to them and they're rubbish. And then you have to say, I listened to the first episode yesterday and it was just a beautiful, whimsical tale, and I'm really looking forward to the next bit. So look up
I'll put it up on
How
the
to
screen,
Kill a Piano by
it's a
George Tait. There's a podcast. But for now, let's welcome the man himself. Oh, no, we've got a couple of pictures of him.
Oh, should we go for the
Yes,
pictures?
go for the
Because he
pictures.
looks so much better in the picture. Look how cute he looks there.
Yeah, this is his
Look at that.
art school type day.
Yeah, that's right, Gwen. It's cute, isn't it? But actually, we can tell a few things about this next picture, because really, what do you know from that, Keith?
Yes, it looks rather like, if we could just lose that he's already started playing 3-card Monty down in the park to earn free ice creams for his friends. So, starting early. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our very good friend, Mr. George Tait.
Yay!
Oh, am I on?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just catching up on my reading.
George, what was that book?
I didn't catch what
he's
it
got
was.
his cup of tea.
Oh, yes.
Hey, I'm liking this.
This book?
I hate this place.
Thank you.
This is a classic Jimmy Fallon text right here.
Is it?
It's a lovely, lovely book.
Perfect.
What are you drinking? What do you have? Does everybody have their tea?
I have my tea.
I do. I'm drinking fruit tea. I'm drinking a raspberry. Gwen, what are you drinking? Something good.
Mine is
Ask
from
questions just as everybody's sipping. They like to
mine
drink it.
is from a yoga student of mine. She brought it back from Sri Lanka. First time
Whoa.
I tried it.
Very posh.
Nice.
Very, very posh.
Very posh. Okay, Jason, down to you. Come on, don't lower the tone. What are you drinking?
Black coffee.
Yes.
It's called a cup of tea.
It's Thank you, George.
And you brought black coffee.
I did.
I brought
Sorry.
the smell of my enemies, so I guess we're even.
I also brought honesty to the conversation.
Perfect.
So, Mr. Tait, ladies and gentlemen watching, this guy is, in my books, one of the most creative and cleverest magical minds there is around. And I've asked him to come here today and do some stuff for us. Have you got something prepared?
I do have something prepared. But before I do it, I just want to ease Jason's mind. No pianos are killed in the story. Or they might be. I don't know. But it's howtokillapiano.com. You can go there if you'd like.
Not the .com. Sorry, man.
It comes out every Monday. And I play all of the piano backings that exist in the podcast as well, and compose original music tracks for it. It's just a fun, silly time. So if you're bored and you have 20 or 30 minutes, pop one on. It's kind of fun.
It comes with my recommendation.
Lovely.
Oh, well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I have a couple things here. Ooh, let me switch to this is the camera angle that we wanted to have. And I thought we would try a little bit of experiment, because instead of just doing that silly podcast, I actually travel the world doing a magic show. But it's not a normal magic show where I do card tricks and big box illusions, although those are fun too. I mess with people's heads instead. And I know there's a couple guests in the room, but you'll notice that there are 3 of us, if you don't count our lovely hosts, and 3 of these envelopes. Gwen, Jason, would you mind helping? Perfect.
Sure.
Jason, we're going to start with you, only because I know that you'd like to have your trigger finger on that microphone button. I'm going to use you first. There are 3 envelopes. I've conveniently labeled them 1, 2, and 3. All you have to do is name a number. Whichever number you name, I'm going to crush that envelope. Don't get too excited. It's just some paper.
I'm going to go with number 2.
Number 2. Sure. Watch this. This is very dangerous. Watch.
Wow,
Thank you very much. Look at that. No paper cuts. I spared no expense. Gwen, you're up next. We have number 3, number 1, whatever you name. That is the one we crush.
Well, he took my number, but I'll choose 3, I guess.
You'll choose 3. I can't talk you into number 1.
Nope. I'm going to
Number
take 3.
It is. Watch. We crush. Living alone, you have to take your frustrations out some way. That's fine. So nobody named number 1. That's a good thing. Now, I did joke a little bit about how there were no paper cuts, but I honestly wasn't worried about cutting myself with the paper. I was more worried about cutting myself with what was inside. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to be very careful with it. That right there, ladies and gentlemen,
Wow.
is a very smart, very real. Thank you very much.
No.
Oh.
Okay.
Soon. Look at Jason's face.
Nice, great.
Yeah, I'm a trained professional. That's just the one, right? Right? These are the kind of crazy ideas that go through my head when I'm stuck here in quarantine. And I know I have an idea of a few of the things that I really want to do as soon as we're allowed to get out of here. Besides continuing to drink tea in fancy places with folks like you. That sounds good as well. But I've been trying to figure out what's a better way to live a better life with a little light reading. So this is the other book that I've been reading. It's called Better Living. Just ignore that top part there. That's not important. Better Living. And I jotted down some ideas inside this envelope right here just to kind of get my head on straight. And I thought, well, as long as we have those ideas going, I would turn to our guests here and ask them how they plan to live a better life. Don't worry, it's not that open-ended, but we'll get there. Jason, I'm curious, where's the first place you want to travel as soon as all of this allows us to do so?
Kelly's Island in Lake Erie.
Where in Lake Erie?
Kelly's Island.
Kelly's Island.
Indeed.
I've never been there. What's it like?
It's awesome. It's a little island, and we go camping at a little state park there. It's awesome.
I love parks. If you could travel there via any kind of transportation, be it if you could bike there, which might be a long trip, if you could teleport there, if you could take a train there or just drive the car, if you could do anything, no limits, how would you travel?
I would travel on a SpaceX rocket.
On a rocket? But
yes.
Like a SpaceX rocket. I like that.
Yes, specifically. Yeah.
Gwen, I'm just curious. Do you know much about space travel?
No, I sure don't. Sorry.
If you had to put a price tag by traveling by a SpaceX rocket, how much do you think a trip like that would cost? It could cost 50 cents for all I care. We're using our fun imagination.
$377 million.
That's very specific. $307 million.
Yes.
Not hundreds. Not thousands.
Probably not.
$1 million. I don't have that kind of money. Do you have that kind of money?
Yeah, no.
I have some ideas, and I did jot them down right inside here. And I want to show you the ideas that I had, just to see how similar they might be here.
What?
It says, oops, go this way. Should open it the right way. It says, hey, I can't wait to get out of the house. No kidding. I've been dreaming of traveling to Kelly's Island. I'll go by rocket. If I only had 377, that does say million. I ran out of space there to spare. Stay safe, George Tait. And I guess I should say cheerio.
What?
What?
That's crazy.
I told you, man.
Mind blown.
George,
I-
thank you.
I don't even know.
Wow.
How did you even do that? That's crazy.
Honestly, all I did was write it down.
Well,
I
guys,
love it.
you
love
have
it.
been amazing guests.
Yeah.
Truly amazing. And we've got 2 minutes to wrap up, but I just thought we could wrap up with one more deep thought. Obviously,
a positive thought for the day,
thought.
something that we can take home with us and think about. And as George,
So I can't cheat off of this.
no. George, share your positive thought for the day.
I thought I was prepared, but apparently not. No, my positive thought is this. Look,
Go, George, go.
there's so many things we can't control, but the one thing that we do have control over all the time are things that we can create. And this is the best time to be creating things is right now in the environment and the world that we have, because our creations can touch people's lives. They can make people smile. They can change the world. So if you feel like you don't have control over anything, know that you do have control. You have the power to create wonderful things.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very
for
much
that.
indeed. Thank you.
Cheers.
Gwen, over to you. What's your positive thought for the day?
My positive thought, I go back to we all have something to give, and just whatever it is, time, talent, money, stories, a laugh, which you guys are so awesome at. And again, a giver gets a gift every time.
Lovely.
Lovely.
Gwen, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Jason, we'll finish with you. Come on. Tell us your thought.
So my positive thought is this: the world will not be the same after this, but that's a good thing. We get to choose what we want the world to be. So we got to take full advantage of this time to make the world a better place.
Super.
Absolutely.
Very true. Very true. Very true. People, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you watching, and there's so many of you, and there's so many comments from some wonderful people. Thanks for watching. Come back and see us again. And we'll be back on Tuesday
Thank you.
Yeah.
at 2:00.
And we just have to say a big cheerio, everyone. So all together,
Cheerio!
Cheerio.